I mean, the film itself. Just maybe not a simple, but a first question: how do you take a friend's diaries, because I guess there were many, and make it into films, like you have done here? Like, how did you visualize the story?
Can you repeat your question one more time? I lost you.
Yeah, how do you take a diary that you got, Anwar's diary, and make it into a film like this?
Well, I need to squeeze my answer, right?
No, it's fine.
Well,
go on.
Well, I know Anwar for a very long time. I knew him from 12 years ago when we worked together in a TV channel in Kabul. And yeah, and he told me that he wants to write his life into the story, but he was telling me this for a very long time, and I could see that he really wanted to do that, but he's not doing that because he didn't really see himself a writer. And we made a deal together that what if I write 8 pages every day, and then the next day he emailed it to me, so I can keep an eye on him that he's doing the job of writing. And he did. And after a year, I collected 800 pages of his diary in my email, and it was very, it was very. I can tell you, like it was very meaningful for me. I think in that year, like every day I woke up to open my email. Like the first thing that I did after I woke up, like ran to my computer to read my email, to read Anwar's text, and I did that for 1 year. And after I finished his text, I mean it was so obvious that it needs to be a film, not one film, but 5 films, because he was talking about his childhood, but it was very personal. But on the other hand, he was also talking about the history of Afghanistan, because he was talking about the last the last 40 years of Afghanistan. He was talking about revolution, COP, like Soviet regime, Taliban, like all these things, and I didn't know anything about these periods. I myself, I was born in 1991, and I absolutely didn't know anything about the history of Afghanistan. For me, Afghanistan was all about Taliban, like, but I didn't really know anything, and I didn't have the interest to dig into the past and to read, and I think I'm not alone on that. It's something that I'm sharing with my generation. Like the young generation of Afghanistan doesn't really know anything about the history of Afghanistan, and yeah, and I think I the text to do 2 things at the same time. Like, on one hand, to tell his story from that time, but on the other hand, to talk about Afghanistan in the past, which very, very much interests me.
But was it your idea that to add these Bollywood scenes?
Yes. Well, the idea came from Anwar's real life, because when he was child, he was selling tickets for Bollywood film in front of a cinema theater in Kabul for 3-4 years, and he was a big fan. He's a very big fan of Bollywood, and he can speak the language very well, because just because he watched many Indian films over and over. And he was talking about this part, but not really in details in his text. But when I read his text, like this period that is related to orphanage, and I wanted to write a draft of the orphanage, I was thinking like, okay, maybe I can play with this part, because I didn't really wanted to have this you know like fiction film having like getting close to main character like when the main character telling us how he or she is feeling and stuff like this, because I think Afghan people, they are not really expressive people, or at least that's my impression, that we are not really expressive, like we cannot really talk about our emotions. It's very hard. And I think it's also because of the last 30, 40 years of war, and all these dramatic, problematic things that happen one after another, that like put everyone Afghanistan into a survival mood, that people do not really react to things, like if something really sad happen, or if something really good happen, like the face of people is the same, and for me this was really something that I wanted to put it into the film. And I thought with myself, like, okay, when I was writing the script, I was thinking with myself, like, I should imagine myself that I am a documentary filmmaker and I am in that orphanage. And if that was the case, how these characters, how these children let me to get close to them, and because also, like there are a lot of cliches around orphans and orphanage and Afghanistan. So when I was working on this project, I was like playing with a subject that is like kind of double cliche, because it's orphanage and orphans in an orphanage in Afghanistan. So I was thinking, like, I do not really want to get close to children, like to make the audience feel or pity for them, but I want them to be as real as possible. And then I thought, like, okay, what if I play with the Bollywood then? Because like I told you, like, Afghan people are not expressive, but on the other hand, they are a huge fan of Bollywood film. And in Bollywood, like, people are expressing their emotions in a very exaggerating way. So I was really fascinated by this paradox, that how is that possible that people who are not really expressive, they're so in love with this kind of cinema, that everything is over the top, if it's like falling in love or dreaming or friendship or revenge or beating or kicking, like everything is like just, like all over the place, is over the top. And I thought, maybe that's the kind of world that that's the Afghan people, they see themselves, or they feel like, though they don't express their feelings, but they are fascinated to this cinema, because then they can see themselves in picture, and that's the way that they express themselves, by watching or living in these Bollywood films. So I thought maybe that's a good thing to play with that.
And for us as an audience, it's such a relief when those scenes are coming, because really hard stuff happens to Quadrat and the other boys, and it's such a relief for us as an audience to just sail away in his fantasy about friendship or loss, or yeah. It's a very good element in this story, I think. I read somewhere that the actors are all amateurs. Is that true?
Yes, they are. They are amateurs, except Quadrat and Sadika, the girl in Dream. They played in my previous film also, so this is their second work. But then the rest of the actors, like everyone, um, they are amateurs. Except we have one professional actor. It's a Danish actor who play Lenin in the mausoleum.
He's doing a very good job. He's very, very good.
I agree.
And I know that you forced Anwar to be in the film. How did because he didn't want to be acting, right? How did
Yes,
you
yes.
manage to?
Yes, because for me it was very obvious that he has to play in the film. He should play in the film because it's his story. And I mean, that was like no question. But when I told him, like, I started to write the first draft and second draft of the script in 2014, when I was waiting for the shooting of my first film. So since that time, I was like repeating and that, hey, you have to play in this film. You should play in this film. And he was just keep telling me like, no, I can't, because he doesn't like his face and he doesn't like his voice. I also don't like my voice, so I kind of understand him. But he was very tough. He was telling me like, no, he really do not see himself playing in the film. And I on that moment I didn't give up, but I stopped insisting him. So I started to make the first film, and then like all the things that happened around that film. And then I started in 2016 when I started to write the next draft. And then the next year I started to do the casting. The more I casted, the more I realized that Anwar has to play in the film, because I couldn't find this guy. I couldn't find this person who is in the dorm with children, and I wanted someone that speak the same language as children, and I wanted someone who is not really, he doesn't look at children, from top. Someone who is who has this spirit of orphan or children in the orphanage, himself, but he's just in a bigger size. He's just an adult. And I said to Anwar, okay, so I did a casting of about 6 months. I did a casting. I did the first round of casting of 20,000 children in like the biggest high schools in Kabul, and I started to talk to families. I started to do a short list, to cut down the number, and then to visit family, to talk to the families, and also to cast some brothers, fathers, some cousins. Like when I went to visit them, so I could see also the other member of family, and I couldn't find this person. And I did I chose some like around 5 to 10 people, but they were not really that person. And in some point, I went to Anwar and I said to him, "Listen, Anwar, I'm not requesting you anymore. This is an order. You have to play into the film." I think I don't know how was my face, but he was so scared. He was like, okay, if that's what you want, okay." And I think he didn't. And I think he did that without knowing on that time. But it was very interesting what happened during the shooting, because I thought that I know everything about Anwar, and I read his diary over and over for many times, and I know him for a very long time. But suddenly, when he was in the shooting, he started, because we improvise. Everyone improvised, like children, Anwar, like everyone. We didn't have any script on the set. The script was written in English, so there was no use of using the script. So everything was improvised, and we shot in the sequence plan, and we shot in long record, for hour or 45 minutes, like non-stop. And I realized that Anva is starting to remember, like as if his memory is starting to remember the words, the sentences, that he never used it in his diary, that he never told me, like he started to reveal a side of him that it was so hidden, also from himself, not from me, but also from himself. Suddenly he was talking like a teacher in 80s, that I was not familiar with that language. And I think for the people who understand the language, the dad, for the people, for the audience, that they understand daddy, it's really, it's a very special way of talking. And I'm very proud of my, I'm very proud that I forced Anwar to play. And I think I will do that again and again if it's needed for other films.
I'm. I hope that he's very happy about the film and how he's performing in the film, because he's really excellent. I'm curious if we have any questions from the audience. Do we have any, or from Yeah, I will repeat so you can. Nej, du är nog det. Has it been shown in Afghanistan? Yeah. That's that's an interesting question. Has the film been shown in Afghanistan?
Yes, like first I should tell for the one who doesn't know, we do not really have cinema theater in Afghanistan. There are two or three, but um, it's not like Europe or like Sweden that people go to cinema and watch movies. It's not like that. We do not have cinema industry. There's no cinema theater. But a friend of mine, she owns a cafe, and she built a cinema over her cafe. It's a very small cinema. It's about 100, like 100 seats, and he asked me to open the cinema with the orphanage, and I was like, hey, let's do that because I wanted to do that with my previous film, but I ran like everywhere and I try everything that I could, but it was not really possible for me to show it in Afghanistan. So I thought that that would happen also with the second film, but I was very lucky that my friend opened that cinema, and then she asked me, and we played the film in the cinema for, I think, for about 4 to 5 months. It was
Oh,
not every day. It was mostly the weekends. It was like 2 3 days a week, but it was really something, and it was very emotional for me, of course, but also for everyone else who came to the cinema, because I told you, like, we do not have cinema industry. So at the when there was a Q&A, like the first thing that everyone said, it was like everyone, we are crying, and like we are in tears, and they saying like, this is my first time in cinema, and I was like, yeah, me too. So everyone, we are sharing the same, like this feeling that, I don't know, it was, and also it was parallel to peace negotiation with Taliban on that time. So there was this vibe that maybe this is the last time, this is the first and last time that we all gather in a cinema theater. So everyone, we are very emotional, and I couldn't feel my legs anymore, because the film was 90 minutes, and then the Q&A was another 90 minutes, and people, even the one that they didn't like the film, they stay in the film and they question, and they like they chit chat, like they stay for a coffee later, and it was really really wonderful.
but was it a
But
public?
maybe I can add something.
Yeah.
Maybe I can add something, because it was very interesting for me, because, well, on the other hand, on one hand, it was all this emotional stuff and stuff, but I realized it was also very interesting for me to hear how people think about the film and about that period of time. And I received a lot of different feedbacks and comments, but one thing that really made me shock, it was the way, like, a lot of people, they enjoyed the film and they liked the film, they enjoyed the Bollywood, but I received one common comment all the time, and that was why I'm not showing the war, and why I'm not showing that how Afghan people are suffering from the war. And I said that, but it looked that people didn't get it. Like, a lot of people didn't get it, and I also realized that it's a because when I was developing the projects, and when I was making the films, one big thing for me, it was to not make another film about Afghanistan that is cliche, just to make something that has a soul and is original and is talking and can stand for the country and for the people close to the Afghanistan that I live and I know, so that was my purpose. But then I realized, when I showed a film in Afghanistan, I realized that it's not only the world that kind of like to see Afghanistan in a cliche way, but it's also Afghan people that they like to see themselves victim all the time. And because we are used to see this picture all the time. We are always used to see like people are suffering and it's war. And uh, I mean, how I can tell it, like we, as if it's a rule that whenever we talk about Afghanistan, we should talk about war, and we cannot talk about anything else except war, you know. And that really annoyed me, because war in Afghanistan is not a new thing, and it's a very routine, because it's 40 years that war is here, and is a part of everyday life of people. And it's not like we suffer every day, every second. We have our everyday life. Yes, war is also part of it, but Afghanistan is also like other countries, and Afghan people are also like other people. So we have the same emotions and feeling and thoughts and problems, everyday life problem, And yeah, and it was very interesting for me that um, that how people are stuck in cliche, and how people feel comfortable to see themselves just victim, and to enjoy that, and just lock themselves to not see any other picture, because that's because we are not used to. I don't know if I'm clear, if I'm talking
I
clear,
think that's
or
one of
I'm talking
the
nonsense.
no, I think that's one of the really, really powerful thing about the film is that they're just normal teenagers that think about girls and sex and football and the idols and I think that's such a powerful way of telling the other story about the conflict. So I really agree with you. Do you have other questions? Yes, we have one.
Sorry, I don't know how to say it because I'm from Afghanistan.
Huh?
And when I saw this film, this movie, I was there in that moment when the Mujahideen came. I was there.
Mm.
I saw everything.
Mm.
So this film, I don't know what like they want to show about Afghanistan. Its history, its what? Because first there is too much Indian songs. It doesn't work for Afghan film, like to have Indian songs. Why Indian? Because it's an Afghan movie. If you want to show like in Afghan life, like Afghan people, it should be like all Afghan. Yes, I know that people like on that moment they laugh. The Indian movies. Yeah, that's okay. But it should not like it should be, I think, like if you want to how can I say, like to be in a festival, like to show movie, like in some countries about and something. I know if this like this Anwar or someone he wants to say something, but it should be like that. I know because I have been through all these things in my country.
Yeah.
All I have seen from this Taraki, from Karman, from Najib, and then the Mujahideen. On that day, that Mujahideen came, I was in the pedagogical institute. I was a professor and I was teaching there in Kabul.
Yeah.
When they came, and I was on that day in my, how can I say, like dress. I had like nothing on my, I was just like had, how can I say, uh, the just like socks,
Yeah.
just, and I had no nothing on my head. It was like Najib days, and in the morning just they came, and we were there. We were just, I was just standing, and I said, "Oh my God, how I can go home because I have no trousers, no nothing."
Wow.
But here, when they show, it's like too much different.
Okay, so
For me, yeah.
did you hear? But I think the
Just
question.
I'm like
Yeah.
thinking, like if they want to show, it should be like nice and real. like this teacher of the this how can I say children's house, like on that time, even now, our people they never use shorts and go. So this is also like a point, I think.
Okay. Okay, so
So
there are artistic choices that
this
you made
too much.
with the Indian music and how they are dressed and so. What do you think about that?
It should be not like it's too much.
Well,
If you are showing the
I think
proper
And
and
I'm sorry. At the end, when they say so, the Mujahideen came. How they come like see? It's like Indian, not Indian movie, just like to tish 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 day. It's not like that. When the Mujahideen came and stand in front of you, and then how can I say? After that, you can come and fight with them. It's not real.
no, it's his fantasy. So yeah,
Yeah.
do you want to answer the question about the choice of the Indian songs? I think this is the last question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's why I said
Yeah.
all. Sorry for that.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm from Afghanistan, so I know everything.
Yeah.
So I came, I said, okay, this film, I will be here. So then now I saw it was like a little bit for me. Oh my God, I said, oi, 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 oi. For me, every moment they were oi, 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 oi. So that's why I said, sorry.
But thank you. But Shar, do you want to answer?
well, yes. I think, you know, I think this film is not really a film about history, and it's not a film about history of Afghanistan on that time, because 1989 to 1992, it's a very political time, because that's the time that Afghanistan completely transformed from a republic to a Islamic state, and that's a very fragile time. That's the kind of the end of Kabul being happy. You know, that was the end of it, and it could be very political film if I wanted, but I didn't want it because that was my choice to be loyal to Anwar's diary. And for me, it was not about all this stuff that is happening in Kabul on that time. It was about the orphanage and these children in the orphanage. And when you are child, when you are children, you do not really you are not really aware of things that are happening around you. You know, you are just living your life, and then things happening, and you only react to things when you are facing them. That's the world of children. And what I care, it was Anwar's life and Anwar's how Anwar experienced Mujahideen and how Anwar experienced that period. And and yeah, I want to add, and also about the Indian songs. That was, I mean, mm, that was Indian. That was not Afghan, because it was about how Indian culture and Indian music uh, is influencing Afghanistan on that time, but also nowadays. You know, like the big majority of people there is speaking Urdu just because they're like Anwar, just because they're watching and they're listening to this music. If you come to Kabul now, you're walking in the street, or you're taking a cab, or you're eating in a restaurant, you hear all those songs that I use in the film from 70s and from 80s. People are living with that life, with that songs, you know. And it's very um, and yeah, I mean, that's fantasy. That's, I mean, about the end of the film, about all this things. It has nothing to do with the reality that that a lot of people like her they experienced. You know, it's about, this is a fantasy world of children. And but I'm very used to these comments, because I also hear the same in Afghanistan, and it's very surprising, because very surprising, because we know all these songs by heart. And it's a part of Indian culture, is a part of our culture now. And
Sorry, can I
yeah,
ask?
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we need to wrap it up. I'm
Where
sorry.
does she from?
Hmm?
Where does she from?
You're from Kabul, or where are you from? What city? I think.
I'm from Central Afghanistan. I'm from Bamiyan, but I live in Kabul.
Okay, but thank you so much for sharing and telling us all these amazing things about this. And this film is one of, you know it, we will see you again on Wednesday, because this is in competition for Best Youth Film and the Swedish Church Award, and also the City of Malmö Youth Award. Yes, thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of the evening. See you later.
Bye. Bye.